Beneath the golden glow of morning sunlight, tucked inside the hollow of an ancient tree, lies a city unlike any other on Earth. No blueprints, no rulers, no architects in the human sense, and yet, it thrives. This is the hidden world of the honeybee hive. If you could shrink yourself down smaller than a grain of rice and slip past the vigilant guards at the entrance, you would find yourself inside a living masterpiece. The air hums, not chaotically, but rhythmically, like the steady pulse of a beating heart. Thousands of bees move in perfect coordination, each with a role, each with a purpose. And all around you rise walls of golden wax hexagonal chambers, stacked with impossible precision. It is a city engineered by instinct and perfected. Look closely at the honeycomb. Every cell is a perfect hexagon, not squares, not circles. Hexagons. Why? Because this shape uses the least amount of wax, while storing the most honey. It wastes no space. It wastes no energy. No bee was taught this. No bee studied geometry. And yet, together, they build structures that rival human engineering. Each tiny worker secretes wax from its body, shaping it with delicate movements of its mandibles. One bee alone could never create this. But thousands working together, they create perfection. Deep within the hive, surrounded by a living circle of attendants, is the queen. She does not rule with commands. She rules with chemistry. Her presence is carried through invisible signals, pheromones that flow through the colony like whispers in the air. She lays up to 2,000 eggs a day, each one a future worker, drone, or potential queen. The entire hive depends on her, but she depends on them just as much, because in this society, power is not about control. It is about balance. The workers are all female, and they are the true engineers, nurses, guards, and foragers of the hive. But what's remarkable is this. A single bee will live multiple lives in just a few weeks. At first, she is a nurse feeding larvae with royal jelly. Then, she becomes a builder crafting wax cells. Later, she is a cleaner, a food processor, a guard at the gate, and finally, she becomes a forager, her last and most dangerous role. Each stage is triggered not by orders, but by age and the needs of the colony. No leader assigns jobs. The hive organizes itself. Now imagine this. A bee returns from the outside world, carrying nectar from a distant field. How does she tell others where to go? She dances. Yes, dances, a figure-8 motion, known as the waggle dance. The angle of her movement tells direction relative to the sun. The duration of her waggle tells distance. In total darkness, surrounded by hundreds of other bees, this dance becomes a map. A living GPS system. No words. No sounds. Just motion. And understanding. Inside the hive, temperature is everything. Too cold, and the larvae die. Too hot, and the wax melts. So the bees regulate it. When it gets too warm, workers line up at the entrance and beat their wings, creating a cooling airflow like living fans. Others bring water, spreading droplets that evaporate and lower the temperature. When it's cold, they cluster tightly, vibrating their bodies to generate heat. Together, they maintain a constant temperature of around 35 degrees Celsius, better than many human systems. But perhaps, the most fascinating secret of the hive is not its engineering. It is its society. Every bee works, not for itself, but for the colony. A worker bee will never reproduce. She will never build a life of her own. Her entire existence is dedicated to something greater, the hive. And yet, there is no rebellion, no confusion, because every bee is guided by a shared purpose, a collective intelligence. Then there are the drones. The males, they do not gather nectar. They do not build. Their only purpose is to mate with a queen. And once they succeed, their life ends. Those that do not mate, they are cast out before winter, left to perish. Harsh, but in the hive, survival is not sentimental, it is efficient. One day, something extraordinary happens. The hive becomes too full, too successful, and so, it prepares to divide. A new queen is raised. The old queen leaves with thousands of workers, forming a swirling cloud in the sky. For a moment, the colony becomes chaos. But then, they settle. They cluster on a branch, forming a living, breathing mass. Scouts are sent out to find a new home, and when they return, they dance each, promoting a different location. The colony votes. Not with voices, but with dances and support. And once a decision is made, they move as one. A new city is born. What makes this all possible? How can creatures so small create something so complex? The answer lies in something we are only beginning to understand. Swarm intelligence. No single bee understands the entire system. But, together, they create something greater than the sum of their parts. A living superorganism. The hive itself is the true being. Each bee is just a cell. So the next time you see a honeybee drifting from flower to flower, remember, you are looking at more than an insect. You are looking at a builder, a communicator, a tiny part of one of the most sophisticated societies on Earth, a civilization hidden in plain sight, built without plans, governed without rulers, and sustained by a single, unbreakable truth, that together, they are stronger than anyone alone. In the quiet hum of the hive, there is a lesson, not just about survival, but about unity, purpose, and the unseen brilliance of nature. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.